Hey everyone, welcome to It Tastes Different Game Reviews. What are we reviewing this time? Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is a role-playing game. Came out on PC on August 3rd of 2023. It is coming out on PlayStation 5 here on September 6th of 2023 and Xbox at some point. We don't know yet, but they're hoping to get it out sometime this year. It is developed and published by Larain Studios. You may know them from their Divinity series. And this is now Baldur's Gate RPG, very much like like Baldur's Gate, or in the vein of Divinity. It's kind of very similar in that vein, but of course, centered around Baldur's Gate and that kind of area and everything in relation to Baldur's Gate and everything like that. I mean, I played the original Baldur's Gates back in the day and love those games. So it's awesome to see Baldur's Gate come back. Those and like Neverwinter Nights and stuff like that were some of my favorite RPGs back then. And so it's nice to see that. It would be cool to see what Larain Studios will do next. Maybe a Neverwinter, maybe something else. I don't know. But yeah, so let's go over here to Pat. Pat, what do you think of Baldur's Gate 3?
It's fun and life-size genitalia. There's lots of lots of streamers finding out. You better be careful when you're streaming that game if you're wanting to look at your character without any clothes on, because they really have no clothes on. Kind of reminds me of like when Conan Exile came out and all those people were like, "Oh, there's genitalia in the game. Be careful when streaming." So it's very fun game. It's true Western style RPG. Loot just about everything, steal just about everything, inventory management nightmare, which is what they typically all of, just lots of, think of Skyrim and all that stuff. Everything is lootable. It's not always yours to loot, but you can steal it, so, and my inventory always suffers in these games. I'm constantly being encumbered and throwing stuff between characters. So, I'm a pack rat and I have a lot of OCD when it comes to games like this, because this game's pretty much just like, ooh, shiny, ooh, shiny, ooh, shiny. Oh, there's another shiny. So the main storyline has pretty much suffered because I've been running around in circles trying to open up all the map and exploring and doing all the shinies and doing things out of order sometimes probably, but that's what these games are all about, and I would beg to say this is right now my top contender for Game of the Year. I don't think Tears of the Kingdom has anything on this one, but if you're going by the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley's definition, that's probably not going to be Game of the Year. He's probably going to pick the Tears of the Kingdom, because their definition is kind of skewed or whatever. But for a game that has been in early access and then has come out, it has just exploded all over the internet. I mean, this game's been in early access for a couple of years now, 2, maybe 3 years. In October, I think October 2020 or 2021 is when it came out in early access. I did not play it in early access because I wanted to play the full-fledged game when it released. Because I don't like playing a game and then having my progress wiped and then playing another game. And that's exactly what they did. Everybody's progress was wiped at release and you started over because they changed a bunch of mechanics, even from what was in the beta servers. A lot of the stuff has changed. So there's lots to see, lots to do, lots of different combinations of things to try. And if you're a fan of D&D, then you're going to like this. There's D&D Rule Set 5. So, if you like that kind of stuff, you'll like this. The dice are not always forgiving, but I have a bigger problem, too, that I'm a save scummer into games like this. I have to admit, I save scum sometimes. I'm like, what would happen if I did this? What would happen if I do that? I have so many saves where decisions came along, and I'm like, and I'll make a save, and I'll make a decision, I'll reload the save, and I'll make the different decision. I'm like, which one do I really want? So I'm really bad about save scumming in games like this, and, it is what it is, So it's definitely a lot of fun. I can't get enough of it, and I can't get enough time in. I'm losing quite a bit of sleep playing this game. So, Nick, what do you think about this one?
Yes, it is a good game. It did come out in early access in 2020 of October. So that's when they started the early access, and so it's been in there for quite some time now in the early access brewing, and it finally came out on PC, and it'll be out on PlayStation 5 here soon. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know what else to say, but it's a great game. I agree with you, Pat. I would say Tears of the Kingdom would have been game of the year, but now I'm like, I think Baldur's Gate's going to give it a run for its money, and mainly because there's just so much to do in this game. There's just so much to do, so much to see. Everything that you do in the game, talk to, is narrated. You have a narrator that narrates general things going on, and then of course all the characters are voiced. But like Pat said, you can tackle any sort of combat event in completely different ways and be successful, right? Me and Pat were talking before this about some of the combat encounters we came across and how he did it and how I did it, right? My character is more I chose a fighter, so I'm more like in front lines of everything. So my tactics is go in guns a-blazing, right? And there's no guns, but you know what I'm saying? Going with sword swinging. Pat's is a bard, so he's going in singing them a nice tune. Putting him to sleep so the rogue can come in and just stab him in the back. But you can go about it in different ways, and it's still fun and it's still exciting to go in and find out different ways to take on a certain scenario, especially when you're talking to individuals, right? There might be times where me and Pat took different routes when talking to different characters and stuff like that. So there's different outcomes. We did talk about certain things that he did that I didn't do, right, in my play. Now I save a lot as well, but I'm not quite that savvy. Like for me, it's like, I will save before something. And then typically, unless it's like worst case scenario, right? Like everything just goes super bad. Whatever outcome I get, that's what I get. Right. And that's kind of how I play it. Unless, like I said, it's a worst case scenario thing where everything just went, tits up and just like the entire game exploded. And I was like, wow, that was horrible. Then I will reload it to be like, okay, let's try that again. And maybe I won't, I got like 2 rolled 5 ones in a row or some crap like that. And everything just went bad. I got kicked off of the side of a cliff and now my character's dead and down in a ravine somewhere. And, things like that. Then I'll reload it. But most of the time for decisions and for certain things, I'm just kind of like, whatever I get is what I get, and I'll go, as long as it's something that I'm okay with. Right. I mean, and not just saying like to reload it because I want to see what the other option was, but if I'm like, okay, that's fine, then I'll continue on. But if I'm like, wow, that just turned out horribly for me, I'm going to reload it then in that case. But in most cases, I'll just kind of keep with what I got. But I do save a lot because you never know what combat encounters or various things are going to happen where it just turns out really badly. And that you were kind of cautious, but you weren't being cautious enough. So you can reapproach that situation. Or maybe you didn't line your characters up correctly or something like that. So you want to reload them because you found a better way, towards the beginning of the fight to kind of line your characters up or have them. But there's so many options. You can change out party members. You can separate your party members so that way you can control one party member at a time. You can hide so you can sneak and do backstabs and persuasion checks and intimidation checks and wisdom checks and religion checks and everything D&D checks. Roll the dice for it all, and which is fun, but the dice is not always on my side. You try to do as much as you can to get as many modifiers. And especially, one of the thing that you have to remember as a player in these games, especially if you're not used to it, you got to make sure also that you've chosen the right character to talk or do a check, right? Unfortunately, and one of the things I wish they would do, and I know why they don't, but I wish, like, if you're doing a sort of a check or something like that, you get to choose which character you're doing the check with. that because you after you play for a while, you know who does better checks with what, right? You can look at their stats and figure that out. But you after a while, if you don't look at your stats and you start doing checks on your own, you kind of figure out, okay, they're really good at this type of check, they're really good at that type of check, and so you kind of want to have that character there. Now, most of the time, the game does present you with a lot of check options in dialogue. So if your person is good at intimidation checks, there probably is going to be an intimidation check option in the series of dialogue options that you're going to get. So you can be like, okay, I know I'm going to be successful in this more than likely. Not always, sometimes I've rolled a number of ones, but most of the time you can get some pretty good checks. But there are some things that I wish the game had, but I understand they probably won't have in there. Inventory, I wish there was a way to better manage your inventory. Like Pat said, it is inventory hell. And so you're just kind of, you spend, half your time playing the game and half your time organizing and going through your inventory, figuring out what you have, where it needs to go, moving it between characters too. Because if you don't loot it as that character, it's going to go to you, which if it's inside of a chest, you can right click and choose who it goes to. So there are kind of some shortcuts to get things there. So those are just minor quibbles, really, as far as like things I would prefer to kind of streamline things a little bit better. But I understand why they don't do it, right? Because D&D is trying to be more set in reality, where you would have to hand something off to somebody or something like that. You can't just magically have it appear. But there's magic in the world, so why not? But overall, this game is a lot of fun. If you like RPGs, if you're a fan of RPGs, I mean, you can't go wrong with this game. They did a really great job with it. I think that for early access doesn't always work out for everybody, but I think for them, it probably worked out for them. They got a lot of feedback from players and were able to implement and use a lot of that feedback to make a great game. And like Pat said, this game has exploded. I mean, everyone seems to really like it. I think, what did we read? Something about, it was like the number one game on Steam or something like that, or for release.
Yeah, it's like 814,000 all-time peak high players right now. So it's like one of their best-selling games ever. And I don't know if you saw the articles where they were talking about they were afraid that they basically busted their wad in early access.
Right, I did read that, yes.
Yeah, they were like, hey, we expect to have about 100,000 players, because I think Divinity, the Divinity 2 or the Divinity Original Sin one, only had like 60,000 or 60 or 90,000 concurrent max players at any given time. And, this game I don't think this game sold very many early access copies. I think when I look back at like the Steam charts, I think the max I saw was like 15 or 16,000 concurrent players. And then to go from that, to 814,000 all-time peak. And I think on average, they're averaging like, 500 to 600,000 on any given time playing anymore. So I'm glad to hear that it went well, because their other games didn't get as much attention, the Divinity games, which are the ones they did, because BioWare held the developer rights to this before Larain Studios got it. Wizard of the Coast owns the IP, so.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, I think a lot of players were probably doing the same thing we were, right? I mean, for Baldur's Gate, as much as I wanted to play it while I was in early access, I didn't want to, because I wanted to experience the game completely from start to finish. I didn't want to come in and be like, oh, well, you've hit the end of early access, and be like, and then have to start over again. Like, I wanted the full experience. And I think maybe a lot of players out there probably wanted the same thing, right? They wanted that full experience from start to finish. And didn't, because a lot of times early access it seems like, not for everybody, but a lot of other games, they do get backed quite often. And not so much on release, but it's kind of a flip flop for them in this case, where early access was a low amount of people. And then everyone's like, oh, it came out, and it exploded with people playing it from every walks of life.
Yeah. I mean, to a game, like anytime I see a game like, an RPG heavy game, I don't have a tendency to play those in early access, because they're time sinks, and this game is no different. It's like, I think they said though, it's like a 75 to 100 hour game for most playthroughs. That's most playthroughs. That's not completionists and all that kind of crap. So that's a lot of playtime, and I don't want to invest tens of hours into a game that's going to get wiped, and my experience is going to change when the game releases. So, I mean, a lot of things probably stayed the same. Some of the stories fleshed out a little different, but I mean, you got to see. I'm pretty sure. I think I read that only Act 1 was available in early access, so Act 2 and 3 were not available or not accessible. I don't know. I didn't play, so I could be wrong there, but that's what I'd read. It was just Act 1 was available, and you were limited to like level 4 or 5. You couldn't go any higher than that. So, you know, I find that games like this I know are time sinks or games that have progression I don't do early access for because I just can't keep doing the same thing over. I have too many backlog of games to put time into something that's going to get reset on me.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this game's, it's $60 on PC. I don't know how much it'll be on PlayStation. I'm imagining 70, but I don't know. But I mean, this is another example too, and I'm sure you read this, and maybe we'll talk more about it on a different video. But this game has no microtransactions, no shop or anything like that. It does have a DLC if you want to get the digital deluxe edition, which is just some, I think a soundtrack and some like skins and stuff. But other than that, there is no microtransactions. There is no shop. There is no live service option, right? And there's none of that crap. And it's exploded. And that just tells you, and hopefully tells developers out there that people aren't as interested in live services or microtransactions and things as maybe they think. If developers put together a cohesive, complete game, the players will come. They will come and they will buy it and they will play it and they will talk about how much they love it because there's, you're not stuck behind a bunch of crap behind a paywall. And so, and that's what players want, right? They just want a nice, complete, cohesive game. They don't want, if Larain Studios wants to make an expansion or like a story DLC for it later on, I think people will be fine with that, right? But if it's like a couple years down the line, then that, okay, they probably started work on this somewhat during development and then, took a couple of years to finish it up and everything like that to release it as DLC, as a expansion story or something like that. Like it wasn't just something that they just snipped out of the game and decided to release it later, right? But that's a good thing. Hopefully we will see more developers do something like that where they just put out full games without all that crap. But regardless, this game is great. I can't, explain enough for people to go out and pick it up if you're already, or if you're waiting for the PlayStation version. You don't got long now. You got like a month, and then that will be out. So if you're waiting for the PlayStation version, then you ain't got long.
Yeah. Yeah, and the PlayStation version is $70 and $80 if you want the digital deluxe. So Sony is sticking to that $70 mark, for games on their ecosystem. So, yeah, I mean, it's a dang good game. I can't stop playing it, and I need more time. I need more sleep, and I need more game time, but game time's more important, so that gets the more time, and sleep gets the back seat. So, yeah, if you like if you like Divinity and all that kind of stuff, then you're going to like this. Like I said, my biggest complaint has nothing to do with the game itself. It's just personal preference. I wish there was a better inventory management system. Like Nick said, you can drag items off a corpse onto a person's portrait and it'll give them the item, or you can right click and send it to them. The problem is there's bags within bags within bags in this game, and sometimes stuff gets thrown in a bag and you're like, where did that go? And it's in a bag within a bag, and you're like, well, this is dumb. I need a bag of holding just to throw it all in just one giant bag, And then I got used to the Divinity style 6-player party, and you're stuck to the 4-player party in this one, so that kind of gets me. I want a 6-person party. I want to throw 2 more people in my party, but I understand it. It means they'd have to make larger battles, more enemies if we had 6 instead of 4. So, it is what it is. They stuck with 4, and that's what they're going to do. So, but it's still fun. I'm not complaining. I'm complaining that I want 6 people and I want better inventory management, but that's just me nitpicking. The game overall is great and amazing. And I would say if we were voting today for Game of the Year, it is this game. It is not Tears of the Kingdom, it is Baldur's Gate 3 for me. But we'll see. I'm pretty sure. I'd like to see their sales figures, you know. If there's 800 and some odd thousand concurrent people playing right now, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to see their sales figures too, and maybe they'll release those soon if they haven't already and we just haven't seen it. But yeah, I would agree with you. I would put this as game of the year right now. Of course, the year's not over, so that could change, but it's going to be a heavy contender for game of the year. I think you know, the only thing is Tears of the Kingdom is established, but I mean, Baldur's Gate is an established franchise. I mean, it used to be back in the day. You know, it's been gone for a long time because BioWare, I don't know what they're doing anymore. No one knows what they're doing anymore. They're not the company they used to be. They're the shell of a company they used to be, but unfortunately, but they got a lot of great IPs. And if they're not going to do anything with Baldur's Gate or anything, it's great that, you know, Wizards of the Coast or whoever was able to give it to, you know, someone like Larain Studios to be able to take that and make something great with it, right? And hopefully they'll do that with more games. I would like to see Neverwinter and, you know, some other Wizards of the Coast, you know, stuff, D&D type games coming from Larain, because they do a really great job. The Divinity series was a great RPGs, and so they've just done that with Baldur's Gate now. So
yeah, I would say, yeah, this probably, hopefully this bodes well for getting a Baldur's Gate 4
hopefully
rather than later, so we don't have as much wait time between 2 as we did between 2 and 3.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, keep it going with that, you know, and some more games like these. You know, we used to have a lot of games like these back in the day, and you know, the only other one making them that I can think of nowadays is Obsidian, you know, with the Pillars of Eternity. There are a few others out there, but you don't hear about a lot of the other ones that are out there. They're not as popular as probably Pillars and now Baldur's Gate is. So, but I'm sure there's some other ones out there. Anywho, do you have any other thing you want to add to this, Pat?
If you like Western RPGs, it's a must buy, must play. It's like a must play of 2023, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. We'll see if Starfield matches up with Baldur's Gate. Completely different games, granted, but we'll see how Starfield does, right, when it comes out. But for now, it's Baldur's Gate. That's what we're playing. And we both highly recommend it. So thanks everybody for watching. Let us know down in the comments below. Are you playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now? Let us know. Or have you played any of the Baldur's Gate? And, you know, if not Baldur's Gate 4, what would you like to see Larain Studios do next? As far as, I mean, there's a lot to pull from. So what would you like to see them do next in the D&D type arena? You know, what games, or maybe, who knows? You know, there's a bunch of them out there. Neverwinter or something different. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to pull from Wizards of the Coast, so who knows, right? But what would you like to see them do next? Let us know down in the comments below. Other than that, thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. Stay up to date with new videos that we do all the time. You can hit the notifications bell. And other than that, thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.